2023, 400 police officers raid the most expensive homes in Singapore all at once and seize $3 billion. One suspect jumps off a second-floor balcony to get away. Remember him. He comes back at the end of this story, and where they find him is perfect. It was the biggest money laundering case Singapore had ever seen, and one of the biggest anywhere, ever, in the country that ranks third on earth for clean government. This is the story of 10 men who washed a fortune through the one financial system everyone agreed could never be fooled. And the wildest part? The cleanliness is exactly why they came. So how do you launder $3 billion? Good news. There are only 3 moves. Every laundering operation ever run, the cartel, the oligarch, the guy with the suspiciously busy car wash, does the same 3 things in the same order. Get dirty cash into the banking system. Scramble the trail so nobody can follow it home. Then spend it in the open like you earned it. Placement, layering, integration. Everything else, the shell companies, the casino chips, the crypto mixers, the art gallery in Geneva, is one of those 3 moves wearing a costume. Think of it like sneaking a stray dog into a luxury apartment building. First, you get it through the door. Then you forge its pedigree papers. Then you walk it through the lobby every morning and complain to the doorman about the other dogs. Move 1 is where amateurs get caught, because cash is a physical problem. $2 million in 20s weighs 44 kilograms. And any American bank deposit over $10,000 triggers a report. That threshold hasn't moved since 1970. So you split it. 20 people, 40 accounts, 9,400 at a time. Smurfing. Except banks wrote software to catch exactly that shape decades ago, and structuring your deposits is now its own 5-year felony. Which is why professionals skip the counter entirely. They buy a business that eats cash. A car wash, a nail salon, a restaurant where the till takes $40,000 a month, declares 140, and nobody counts the customers? The men in this story had a business too. It had no customers at all. But before we get to the fake company, you need to see where the money came from. It came from a casino. Anxi County, Fujian Province. Mountains, tea farms, and for about 15 years, one of the most productive online fraud regions on the planet. In 2012, a 23-year-old from Anxi named Wang Binggang launched an online casino called Hongli International. The betting software came off the shelf from a company in Taiwan. The branding was dressed up to look like Macau. The customers were mainland Chinese gamblers for whom every single bet was illegal. So the whole operation sat offshore. First, a Philippine economic zone. Then, Bavet, Cambodia. The scale only came out later, in court. One of the men convicted in Singapore, Wang Dehai, testified that his personal cut in 2016 was 80 million yuan, $11 million, one man, 1 year, on a 3% share. Run that math backwards, and the casino cleared around $366 million that year. A successor operation employed 10,000 people across Cambodia and the Philippines and turned over $687 million a month. And a casino is the perfect place to start because casinos are the oldest placement machine ever built. Walk in with dirty cash, buy chips, play a little, lose a little. Walk to the cage and cash out with a check. Now your money has a biography. You got lucky. Cashing out, sir? Yes, 2 million in chips. Wonderful. How was your evening? I lost $40,000. So close to breaking even. Check is in the post. But casino money has a ceiling. A check from a Cambodian betting operation cannot buy a mansion in Singapore. Banks ask questions. Immigration asks questions. To spend money like a rich man, you have to become one, on paper from scratch. So they built people. Move 2. Layering. The art of making money forget where it was born. The classic version is a chain. A Singapore company owned by a British Virgin Islands company owned by a Seychelles trust, with a nominee director in Cyprus who holds 400 other directorships and couldn't pick you out of a police lineup. Every link is legal. Every link costs a few $100s to build and costs an investigator a month to break. The biggest version is boring. Trade. Ship a container of phone cases worth $20,000. Invoice it at $200,000 and $180,000. Just crossed a border in broad daylight. Add up the gaps in the world's trade paperwork over 10 years, and you get $8.7 trillion. There's Hawala. Hand cash to a broker in Karachi. His counterpart in London pays out the same afternoon. Nothing crosses a border. Nothing gets subpoenaed. And there's crypto. Tornado Cash mixed $7.5 billion of ether, roughly a third of it criminal. The Singapore syndicate could have used any of these. Instead, they used something better. A 26-year-old at Citibank. Wang Qiming was a relationship manager, and part of his job was answering the bank's own anti-money laundering queries. So when Citibank asked where $8.5 million of deposits had come from, the question landed on his desk. Compliance needs remittance receipts for these transfers. Not a problem. By Friday. You'll have them tonight. What format do you prefer? He made the receipts in Microsoft Word from templates he found online, belonging to companies that had nothing to do with the money. The bank asked the bank for proof, and the bank handed the bank a forgery. He also collected $481,000 in cash and drove it to a client's house himself. When police called in October 2021, he deleted WhatsApp off his phone. 24 months and a 16-year ban from the industry. The judge said he had turned his duty on its head. At a second bank, Julius Baer, a banker named Liu Kai, helped file a forged Chinese tax document to open a Swiss account. 7-year ban. 2 men, 2 banks, and the money came out clean. The syndicate solved the identity problem the same way they solved everything. They shopped. Cambodia, Vanuatu, St. Kitts, Dominica, Cyprus, Turkey. 6 countries that sell citizenship to investors, and not one of the 10 men traveled on a Chinese passport. Su Haijin walked into Singapore as a Cypriot. Their nationality got laundered before their money did. Clean-looking money, clean-looking passports. Time for the fun part. Time to go shopping. Move 3. Integration. Turning a number on a screen into a life. The favorite tool everywhere on Earth is property, because a house is the one luxury item nobody finds suspicious. In America, roughly 22% of home purchases sit outside the anti-money laundering rules entirely. No mortgage, no checks. The rule, written to close that gap, was struck down by a Texas court this March. After property, things with no serial numbers anybody checks. Watches, handbags, gold bars, a painting that changes hands for $9 million. Buyer's name, nobody's business. So, what does $3 billion of integration look like? Here's the inventory Singapore seized. 152 properties, 62 cars, 250 handbags, 726 bottles of alcohol, 58 gold bars, and 69 bear bricks. Collectible plastic bears. Those belong to Su Haijin, the balcony man, along with 13 properties, 9 watches worth $19 million, and 3 country club memberships. Hiding was over. That was the whole point of Move 3. But the most audacious document in this entire case is a tax return. The syndicate had incorporated a Singapore software company, Yihao Cyber Technologies. It sold nothing. It employed nobody. Its customers were forged agreements, contracts signed with companies its own owners controlled. The company bought from itself and called it revenue. Why bother? Because Su Haijin was applying for permanent residency, and the application needed a profitable Singapore business. So a corporate services director named Wang Junjie cooked the books and filed false statements with the tax authority. The company paid real tax, out of stolen money, on profit that never existed. Read that again. They paid taxes voluntarily. on imaginary income, because a tax bill is the most respectable document money can buy. Wang Junji got 32 weeks this July, and at every gate, a professional held the door. 4 law firms penalized, plus a lawyer. The largest fine, $100,000. 2 property agents fined. A conveyancing lawyer charged with forgery over 1 property deal. Also this July. That case is still before the courts. For 2 years, all of it worked. The houses filled. The cars gleamed. The tax bills got paid. Then in 2021, a report about foreigners using forged documents landed on a desk at the Singapore police, and somebody read it properly. The investigation ran silent for 2 years while the shopping continued. Then, 15th of August, 2023, dawn, 400 officers, simultaneous raids across the island's most expensive postcodes. Su Haijin heard them at the door and went off the 2nd floor balcony, both legs broken. He dragged himself down a staircase, out a side gate, and into a storm drain. That's where they found him. The man with the $19 million watch collection, lying in a drain with 2 broken legs. 10 pleaded guilty, 13 to 17 months each. Between them, they forfeited $944 million, and all 10 were deported and barred for life. 17 more suspects had already left the country while the investigation ran. In November 2024, 15 of them sent Singapore an offer, $1.85 billion. In exchange, the cases close. That's 98.6% of everything you froze? Yes. And then we're free? You're free. Somewhere else. Singapore took the deal. Those men walk around today. They just can't ever come back. Then Singapore turned on its own gatekeepers. 9 financial institutions fined a combined $27.5 million. Credit Suisse, UOB, and UBS among them. Every finding was about a check somebody skipped. This May, the global money laundering watchdog handed Singapore its best grade ever. The same report called the fines too low and counted 11,000 investigations against 682 prosecutions. That's the country that caught them. Now zoom out. The UN's estimate for the whole planet, between $800 billion and $2 trillion laundered every year, and police worldwide seize about 1% of it. 1%. While this case ran, Singapore's population of family offices, private investment vehicles for the very rich, went from 400 to 2,000. 5 times over in 4 years. 6 of the family offices in this case were part of that boom. The money came because the country was clean, and the intake outran the checking. Last month, liquidators auctioned 47 of the seized cars. 11 Rolls-Royces, photographed under a film of dust. One was a 2023 Phantom with 284 kilometers on the odometer, less than the drive to Kuala Lumpur. They bought the ultimate machine and never left town. Dirty money doesn't run from clean countries. It queues for them. Laundering has exactly one product and trust, and Singapore's was the best on the market. You can't wash anything in dirty water.